Okay, hello again, Year 8. This week we are on Lesson 9 and 10. Lesson 9, what was the empire? Is there a right question to ask? So we're really bringing everything in these two lessons that we've learnt over the last 9-10 lessons together. And you're first of all going to need to read those two key words at the top, legacy and exploit. Pause the video and read those. Make sure you understand them now. And then you're going to go ahead and complete the recap box, the Quizit. Now, I'm not going to go through this because you know where to find the answers in the rest of your booklet or the knowledge organisers. You've got A, B and C at the front of this workbook. And you know how to complete these tasks underneath. Put those things in order. So I'm not going to go through that with you. Pause the video now and complete the Quizit task. Now, once you've done that, we've been thinking a lot over the last few weeks about this question of British India. Was it inglorious, as Shashi Tharoor might say? And in lessons 7 and 8, you've been introduced to Neil Ferguson's interpretation of British India. I've summarised it here by saying British India was vital, i.e. British involvement in India was vital for India's success in the future. What I mean by that is how successful India is today. So you're going to mark a point somewhere along this line to show where you sit in the debate about British India. Who do you agree with most, really, is what I'm asking you. Now, you'll notice that the middle has been blocked out because I don't want you to sit on a fence. Sitting on fences is bad for your backside because they're pointy and it's not very good history. So what I need you to do is mark somewhere along this line, not in the middle. For example, if it were me, I think I'd be marking somewhere probably about here. And then underneath that point that I've marked, you're going to bullet point 2 minimum powerful facts to back up why you marked the line in that place. So I'm only going to write one. You can write the second yourself. But at this point, I'd be thinking, well, I want really powerful, strong facts here. So I'm going to go back in my workbook and try and find a powerful or strong fact I can use. Now, I know I've sort of agreed with Neil Ferguson here overall, so I'm going to try and add a fact that he's got. So I'm going to go back and look at this extract. It's in lesson 8 about Neil Ferguson or what he said. And I'm going to look for a really powerful fact. Now, what does he say? No organisation has done more to promote the free movement of goods. Okay, that's good, but I think I could do better. Here we go. What about this stuff? When the British governed a country, there were certain distinctive features of their own society they tended to disseminate, spread. A list of the more important of these would run: the English language, English forms of land rental, Scottish and English banking, the common law, Protestant Christianity, team sports, democracy, representative assemblies, the idea of freedom and liberty. Okay, I'm going to write some of those as my facts. And I might say the British spread English language. Team sports. Democracy. Etc. Okay, now I've listed those underneath there just to make it really clear what they're linked to, but you've actually got space on the lines underneath to bullet point your facts. Okay, pause the video here, do that task now. Okay, and you'll notice here that there's a challenge task at the top. So if you wanted to, you could explain why you marked the line in that place. If you want to do the challenge, and I would encourage you all to, pause the video here, do that task now. Now, the next task requires you to watch a clip. Now, I've sent you a link to the clip that you need to watch, and in the email that I've sent you as well, I've written where you need to skip to. You only need to watch a section of it, okay, the first sort of section. And if you want to, you can go off and watch the whole of the rest of the episode of the big questions that I've sent you. It is quite interesting, and there's lots of interesting debate that happens. But you need to watch that clip that I've asked you to watch, that section I've asked you to watch, as a minimum. As you are watching it, I need you to answer the 2 questions by filling in the box or boxes. First of all, note, that should say, not. Note down what questions they're asking about the empire. And if you finish that, then do the challenge question. Do you think they're asking the best questions? What might change about their questions? You could also think about what answers they might want to get, or we might want to get. And what alternative questions you might ask. So in this box underneath, you can write down whether you think they're asking the best questions or not, and why, and what might you change about them. And you might like to write some alternative questions you would like to ask instead as well. Pause the video here and go and watch the clip and complete the questions in the 2 boxes. Pause the video, do that now. Okay, now the next task is actually based on a conversation that I had with a historian called John Wilson on Twitter. Now, John Wilson is a historian of the empire. He's specifically a historian of British India, of the empire in India. And he's written a number of really wonderful books about the empire. Now, John Wilson says that actually we shouldn't be asking whether the empire was good or bad. We shouldn't be saying whether British India was a positive or a negative thing. And that learning about empire is all about asking the right questions. Now, as I said, I asked him what he thought we should be asking on Twitter. And this is what John Wilson says. I'd get them thinking about different ideas of what empire is. That's more important than for or against. So really we're talking about what the empire is for. What was the purpose of the British Empire? So I'd like you to think about that. Go and find somebody in your house, a sibling, a parent or guardian, and ask them. Fill them in on what you've been learning. Ask them what they think the purpose of the empire was. And discuss that with each other. And once you've done that, you're going to make a list of things you think the empire was for in the box below. And if you finish, you can do the challenge too. How might a white Victorian person answer the same question? So lots of instructions there. In a second, I'm going to ask you to pause the video and do them. You need to start by rereading John Wilson's tweet that he sent to me. Find somebody and discuss with them what was the purpose of the empire. Make a list of things you think the empire was for. And if you finish, do the challenge task 2. Pause the video here. Do all those things now. Now, whilst you've been doing that, I've gone to collect a book. And it's a book actually that was written by John Wilson. It's a book that I'm reading at the moment. It really is changing everything that I thought I knew about British India. And in fact, I wish I'd read it before I wrote the scheme of work, the work that you're now doing in history, because it's really changing a lot about my understanding of British India. Now, actually, I've sent out today a copy or some reading from this to people, certain people to read as well. If you want that, if I've not sent it to you and you want to go and read that, then email me and I'll send it to you, okay? But it's going to probably help you actually with this and help you with the rest of what you need to do in lesson 9. Anyway, what I need you to do then, once you have thought about the questions on the last page, what do you think is the right question to ask about the empire? What questions should we be asking? And really, in order to determine that, you need to think about what you want to find out. What are the answers that you want about the empire? So again, go and find somebody to talk to about that. What do you think are the right questions to ask the empire? And then you're going to write your questions in the box underneath. Pause the video here and do that now. And then the last thing you're going to do, and we've done this many times before, so I'm not going to explain to you how to do it, is to just write a tweet. This time answering our inquiry question overall, how inglorious was British India? Bring everything together that you've studied over the last 4 or 5 weeks. And you should also be trying to use as many words in your answer from the table of words that we've been using as you can. A reminder that you need to write in full sentences, but that you can use ats and include people in your answer or in your tweet. You can use hashtags, but you must use as many detailed facts as possible in your tweet. Pause the video here, write your tweet now. Okay, now lesson 10 for this week, as you'll see, is a revision lesson. Now you need to read the keywords and definitions at the start, but hopefully lots of these will be familiar to you as we've done them or covered them many times before. You're then going to complete 2 vocabulary boxes on the East India Company and the Viceroy of India. Remember, these are the 2 different periods of Indian history that we've been studying. If you think about it this way, from roughly 1615, the East India Company get their charter in 1600, their royal charter from Elizabeth I. They first colonised parts of India in roughly 1615. From roughly 1615 until 1857, where we're talking about East India Company, I'll abbreviate that to EIC, rule. Remember, that is not the British government, that is a company. Think about it, or think of it like Amazon taking over Britain on behalf of America. Amazon's an American company. Okay, so that's East India Company rule of India from 1615 to 1857. A British company ruling India. Then the Viceroy period from 1857 to 1947. We call that the British Raj. When the Viceroys are ruling India, remember, that means the British government are ruling the subcontinent. Okay? So, you're going to complete both of these vocab boxes, and you can also do the challenge tasks underneath. Summarising Neil Ferguson's interpretation, and explaining how Shashi Tharoor's interpretation is different to Neil Ferguson's. Pause the video here, complete the vocab boxes and the challenge tasks now. Now, once you've done that, again, we've done this task loads of times, so I'm not going to talk you through it in much detail. But you'll see over the next 2 pages are that timeline that you're becoming very familiar with by now. Okay? What you need to do is first of all start by, on task 1, adding the time periods that are listed below. Now again, we've done this loads of times, but if you're struggling, go back and look earlier in your workbook, search on Google, look online for these things if you're stuck. Do it from memory first though. Remember, that's how these things get stuck in our head. I always talk about weightlifting for your brain. Make your brain work harder and you'll remember this stuff. Do it from memory first. Once you've added the time periods, move on to task 2 it should be, but it's 3 on here. And add events that we've studied in Cycle A, Cycle B and Cycle C that you remember. Things like the abolition of the slave trade or slavery. Things like the scramble for Africa. Or things from this cycle. So go ahead and do that. That's task 3 and 4 actually. And then once you've done that, you can draw pictures or symbols next to your time periods or your events to show what happened and to help you remember it. For example, here's my picture for the first Indian mutiny. Well, on the number 1, a picture of India and a mutt, a dog, a crossbreed dog. First one, Indian country, mutt mutiny. It's really silly, but it's going to help me to remember it. In fact, the sillier it is, the better, the more likely it is to stick in your head. Okay? So tasks, all of the tasks on that page, including the challenge, complete a timeline. Pause the video and do that now. Now, once you've done that, we've thought about the facts that we need in order to complete your Aspiring for Excellence, which would have been in your next lesson, or where you'll be writing a paragraph, to answer our question, how inglorious was British India? Now, you'll see here that I've given you a model paragraph underneath to help you remember or to remind you how and what it is you need to write. What I need you to do is read this model paragraph, and then you will notice that the evidence or facts are missing. There's lots of stuff not included. So you need to go and fill in the gaps. Pause the video here and do that now. If you're struggling, look in your booklet for answers. Do the task now. Now, that really is the end of this lesson. However, if you wanted to, you could write a practice paragraph on the notes underneath based on the question, how inglorious was British India? A reminder that you should be trying to use the words that we've been practicing. These are the words you're going to get get a sophisticated for in your Aspiring for Excellence if you use effectively. Okay? So if you wanted to, you could write a practice paragraph here on that question, how inglorious was British India? Okay? But that actually is the end of the lessons for this week. I hope the video was useful, and I'll see you next week.